Friends and foes, welcome back to Indefensible, Pawl Bazile, and I have a practical question today. And the friends, you could stay, naturally, you could watch, because I feel like a lot of you have the same question, but foes, I really, really want you to pay attention, because this is for you. I want to have a civil conversation with you, because these are the questions that I have if a leftist gave me the opportunity to interview them. A Twitter leftist, a leftist journalist, a member of Antifa, a politician like AOC, like Ileana Omar. I have something I really want to ask. I have a few things I really want to ask. And maybe in the comments below, some of my friends could ask their questions or their versions of these questions. And I think this is very important because we never have this conversation. So I want to have it with you right now. And I really want you to think about this. And I want you to comment below with your answers. Can I ask you something? Liberals, progressives, leftists, can I ask you something? Seriously. What's it like? Seriously, what's it like? What's it like being a liberal in 2019? What's it like to be able to post literally any opinion you have, no matter how radical, and not even a discussion is brought up about it? What's it like to be able to post those radical opinions on your social media site with no threat whatsoever of having it deleted, of losing the social media site and all the followers that you built up possibly over years? Years of good posting, years of making good contacts, years of effort. What's it like to be able to open up merch stores about whatever you want and sell t-shirts with mass murderers like Che Guevara on it? Not that I want to do that, but you do. And I think it's odd when I see what other people get removed for. And if we could get even deeper for a minute, I want to ask, what's it like to be able to post pictures of your everyday life, of your mundane life, of your friends, of your family, of your loved ones? How about of your girlfriend? What's it like to be able to post those pictures and there's no threat whatsoever? There's no fear whatsoever that those people will be doxxed and harassed the way mine have, the way every conservative I know, the way their families have been harassed. What's it like to be able to go into work, no matter how radical your beliefs are? If you want full-blown communism, you could express that at work freely. And people, despite whether or not they agree or disagree, or strongly disagree, will engage you or debate you or ignore you. But the last thing on earth that they would do is cost you your job, the way they cost me my job, which I would love to give myself a pity party for that. I was the first person to get fired because I voted for Trump. I got fired the day Trump was elected because I voted for Trump by a butthurt manager at a restaurant. But that story's not even unique anymore because Jesus, pretty much everyone I know has lost their job, lost their girlfriend. In some case, people have been kicked out of apartments where they were the roommate. They paid their rent on time, everything else. And they said, no, you got to go because we don't feel safe with a Trump supporter in the house. Has anyone ever said to you, has any conservative in your life ever said, we don't feel safe with a progressive leftist in the house because we've seen the child drag shows, because you want chemical castration for prepubescent boys? We don't feel safe because we've seen the Antifa reports, and they seem to support your ideology at least most of the way through, if not 100%. And we're afraid that you're a violent group like that, and you're a member of that group, and you support that group. And we saw your social media, and you were posting about that group and cheering that group on. What's that like to be able to have that kind of freedom, the freedom that you're trying to take from us? Now, the purpose of this video isn't to make conservatives victims. I'm not a victim. The only person who can make you a victim is you. But I'm a target My house has been doxxed. My phone number's been doxxed. Most of my friends have the same story. So I'm not the unique one. I'm not going to run around and say, I'm the most censored person who's ever lived, or anything like that. There's people who have it far worse than me. There's people who are going to jail. I mean, what's that like? To be able to go to a rally and beat on people with impunity, or follow people and be friends with people and support people who commit acts of street violence with impunity, and they either A, never get caught, or B, if they are caught, they get some slap on the wrist, you hit a guy with a bike lock. Yeah, so what? You concussed a guy, put him in the hospital, you gave him some staples in his head, you hit him with a flagpole, you threw a cinder block at him, you threw rocks, you threw explosive devices, you beat up a bus with a hammer, all those things. And nothing really happens. You never hear about, like, this Antifa guy is going to jail for 10 years because they put a guy in a coma. You do hear about conservatives who defend themselves, and now they're facing jail time. People I know, people who are good friends of mine, people who don't deserve it. And what's that like? Because, I mean, I commit acts of violence on as many people as I want to. And that number is exactly 0. I have no desire to go into the street and commit acts of violence. I will commit acts of self-defense if necessary. It's been rare. I've done it. But, I try to avoid these things, and I think everyone should try to avoid being violent and getting arrested, particularly when you get older. It gets silly if you're out there fighting all the time and picking fights with people and whatever, and putting yourself in situations where you need to throw hands with people and possibly lose your livelihood and your freedom. But what's it like? I mean, what's it like to not be doxxed because conservatives don't do that to you? I know there's definitely some anecdotal evidence of this leftist or that leftist who's been doxxed, I'm sure. But it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen on a mass scale. You could look at the list of writers on Huffington Post right now, or writers on Vice or whatever, who are just railing against anyone left of or right of Jane Fonda. Anyone. And their houses aren't doxxed. They could walk down the street. They could go into a Starbucks and not be harassed. They could go and have, beers at a bar with their boys, and they could wear whatever t-shirt they want that says, Young Turks, I hate Trump, whatever. And even if people disagree, they just sort of go, and move on with their day. They don't harass them. They don't swat them. They don't call the police and say these people are heavily armed and they're assaulting women, and they don't do that. They don't perpetuate this hoax narrative, this boy who cried wolf narrative, ever. Have you ever thought of that? Have you ever thought, all these things that we're doing to these people that we have maligned as the worst people who've ever lived, they never really do it to us. And we have that, as a liberal, we, in my first person narration, have that luxury to be able to childishly harass and insult with impunity, to dox people with impunity, to post the most radical. I mean, there is no opinion that's too radical left. You could say, I'm a full-blown communist, I love Karl Marx, and I think that the world would be a better place if the Soviet Union ran it, and Cuba is a much better country than the United States of America in many ways. And you could say all those things, and no one will ever hold you accountable. No one will ever hold you accountable. If you're an actor, you could say whatever you want. You could threaten the president's son with rape. If you're an actor, you could say absolutely whatever you want. You could threaten the president of the United States. You could threaten him with murder. And no one will ever say you're inciting violence and inciting hate to maybe even not him, but his followers, people like me, people like some of you, some of my friends who are watching right now. What's that like? What's that like to be able to joke? What's it like to be able to, oh my God. It seems like every time we find out that another celebrity has worn blackface, or a Nazi uniform, or a Klan uniform, or something like that, they're a dyed-in-the-wool leftist. But if a conservative dresses like an Indian, they are Hitler personified. Because, oh, you have to understand my amazing progressive politics. It's obviously just a joke. It's obvious that I don't feel this way. Oh, and by the way, now that I've done it, I'm very, very sorry. Oh, and it was many years ago. And oh, I think very differently of it. And all the excuses that come along with that. What's that like? What's it like to be able to associate with whoever you choose? And I mean, once again, I choose not to associate with people who I find disreputable. You know, people who are considered alt-right or too far right, I really have no interest in. I don't consider these people right-wing whatsoever. Their politics align in many ways with yours, which is one of my chiefest problems with them. If you sit down and actually read what they say online or try to have a discussion with them, we agree on almost nothing. Chiefly of all, we disagree on free speech. All they are liberals plus racism. Has no interest to me. They're progressives. They think in a more progressive mindset, yet they're more traditionalist when it comes to social issues. I have no interest in people's personal lives. I have no interest in people's genealogical makeup. And I have no interest in associating with them. You, however, Barack Obama could host meetings featuring an actual domestic terrorist in his living room. And it doesn't even become a blip on the radar. I mean, conservatives kind of know about it, but it didn't stop him from getting elected and reelected, did it? I mean, Donald Trump can't make a phone call to another world leader without people saying, well, this must be collusion. I mean, what's that like to have politicians who openly collude with world leaders, who sell off 20% of the United States as uranium and, don't have to answer for it whatsoever, who send pallets of money to hostile countries, and they never have to answer for a thing. While our politicians, people who represent the United States, people who represent patriotism, people who say, I love this country, are under a fucking microscope. And if they are not fucking spotless, squeaky clean, spotless. And by the way, I'm a little surprised because Trump is at this point the most vetted president we've ever had in this country. I mean, do you agree with that? I mean, every move he makes, we micro and psychoanalyze everything he's doing, down to even saying, oh, the man might be mentally ill. When he eats a hamburger, we go, look, he's in such terrible health. He's eating McDonald's. Can you believe it? His diet is under scrutiny. His wives are under scrutiny. His children are under scrutiny. Every phone call he makes is under scrutiny. Every pause he takes in a sentence is under scrutiny. What's it like to have a guy like Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren, who literally says the most batshit things ever, up to and including, basically, vote for me, I'm Native American, and you find out she's not remotely Native American, and she's still one of the front runners of your party? I mean, do you ever stop and consider that? Not stop and consider, oh, we should lambaste and chastise these people, but the fact that when you want to talk to me about privilege and all my privilege because I'm white, and I hang out with people who are, Latino, people from the islands, who have the same exact complexion as me and the same exact hair color and eye color as me, and people come up to me all the time and just start speaking Spanish because they assume I'm Spanish. But yet I have white privilege, male privilege, straight privilege. Have you ever considered that you might have liberal privilege? And is that a problem for you? I mean, if every other type of privilege on earth is a problem, is liberal privilege a problem for you? Is that something that you look at yourself in the mirror and go, man, I could get away with anything. I could get away with the craziest shit ever. And again, I don't want to get away with the craziest shit ever. I'm not espousing, hey, the right wing should be even crazier. I'm saying, when you hold people accountable, but only to one side, and there is no standard for your side, is that fair? And aren't you about fairness? And is that privilege? And most importantly, the most important question I have to wrap this up, does that matter to you?
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?